So this is the Air Jordan 5 Retro OG Fire Red, and there's probably a ton of reviews out there for this particular sneaker, but this was one of my, I guess, pickups for 2025 as well. I don't have any pairs of Jordan 5s apart from the A Ma Maniére pair that I picked up for cheap, which is the Dusk pair, I believe, which is like the kind of white kind of pair, which is going towards sort of grey, like a photon dust type colour. But I picked up this pair because this is one of the ones that, you know, I really wanted. Like I said, it's an OG colorway, and I did have the silver tongue version, but I sold those, and I'm kind of glad I did, because I feel like this is the one to get in terms of Jordan 5s. I'm not the biggest Jordan 5 fan, and as I remember, these came back out in sort of 1990 after the Jordan 4, which was also amazing in '89, and I did have an original pair of those. And then these followed after, and even with these I was like quite sort of drawn to them, but obviously being at that age, you know, couldn't afford, you know, my mum to get me a pair, and I'll continue to wear my Jordan 4s. So it's nice to finally have a pair of these in hand, and with the sort of 23 font and the Chicago Bulls colorway, it just, you know, like I said, it just brings that sort of nostalgic factor. You know, the aqua pair is really nice as well, and the metallic black is really nice, but I didn't get any of those pairs, so I just opted out of them because I knew this one was coming out, and this is the iconic colorway to me, and the one that sort of is most synonymous with Michael Jordan as far as I'm concerned, and also because of the 23 font that's on the back, and also with the Nike Air as well. So, you know, it was last retroed in 2013, so it's due a retro, and I'm glad they did it, because I feel like this one is like the ultimate version. And in terms of, I suppose, the details, it, you know, has like the lace toggle thing that you'd normally get on the Jordan 5. And then also, you know, you've got the netting on the top here as well, which is supposed to give you a bit of breathability. And it's all a leather upper, which I really like as well. It kind of makes it more shoe-like. And then with regards to the tech, it has an air unit in the heel and also in the forefoot, similar to the Jordan 4. And then the midsole is a bit more kind of, I suppose, less of it. And it gives you a slightly more ground feel, in my opinion. But also it feels very neutral, same as any other basketball sneaker. And then on the bottom you can sort of see it's got the iconic herringbone traction with the Jordan logo and the Nike on the bottom as well, and the same goes with the heel as well, which I mentioned with the Nike Air. So, you know, overall a really good looking shoe, and I do like the black tongue that they've got as well going on. So with regards to the comfort, I think, you know, in terms of its comfort, it's not going to be anything too special. I mean, it's quite sort of big, bulky shoe, but I think what works well with the sort of Jordan retros is they are, like I said, more shoe-like or more boot-like, so you can kind of wear these, you know, during sort of the autumn winter time, that kind of stuff. And then with this one, like I said, because it's quite sort of neutral, quite sort of low to the ground, you do have a little bit of cushioning, but it's nothing special. But I find, you know, they're comfortable enough, and in all honesty, the older I get, the more firmer I like my shoes, and this, I would say, it's probably going towards the firm side, maybe like medium. It has, like I said, a little bit of squish factor to it, but not that much. And you know, in terms of, I suppose, you know, the comfort in terms of the upper, there's no sort of restrictive points on this. I find usually with Jordan 5s, they've got quite sort of wide foot fitting, and then, you know, there's quite a lot of lace as well. They can sort of see that to undo and adjust to your liking, which I also find. And I usually don't have no pressure points with Jordan 5s. It's just mainly the ankle area. I find this a bit too sort of bulky, and that's just a preference for me. That's why I liked the A Ma Maniére pair, because it was a bit more, I guess, understated in that sense. You know, they kind of like took out the cushioning from the, you know, the ankle collar. And then in terms of, like, I suppose, like I said, the wearing time for these, you probably need like anywhere between sort of 5 to 10 hours, and once they're sort of wearing, they start to feel nicer. The leather quality on this feels better than what you get on the silver metallic pair, which was quite sort of plasticky. And you can sort of see when I push down on this, it does have that sort of nice kind of, you know, leather to it. Not like amazing, but it's still good enough. I don't think it's going to crease that badly, I suppose. And then also, with regards to the traction, I always found the Jordan 5s to have good traction. You know, because it's sort of low to the ground, and then you've got the herringbone on the front and the back. I think sometimes in wet weather it can be a little bit slippy, but other than that, I think they're pretty good to go. So with the look and style, as I said earlier, it's an iconic pair. You know, if you're into your Jordans, then this is a classic, definitely worth getting. And just something about this colorway, it just looks quite mean. You know, based on a Spitfire, I think it was a fighter jet. You know, and then the 23 on the side, kind of done in that similar font to the Chicago Bulls. Like I said, It just looks iconic with the black, red, and white. There's just something perfect about it, and almost something magical as well. And as I said earlier, with the Nike on the back as well, I think with this you have to kind of wear it with like pants or jeans that are slightly more baggier, I guess. I kind of like it, it's sort of tapering over the top. But a lot of my jeans, tend to be sort of straight fit. So I kind of sort of sometimes have, jeans where it will kind of hang above the ankle collar, which I don't mind personally. But, it can give that bulky look, especially because I have like big calves as well. So, everyone's different. And you might find, on you and on your skinnier person, it might look better. These are perfect for autumn, winter time. You may be even going towards the springtime, but because they're ultimately leather and white, you kind of want to wear them sparingly, in my opinion. But then, with the Jordan 5s, there isn't that many different options to choose from because a lot of them have white uppers. And then you've got the metallic blacks, which are pretty much all nubucky kind of material, and those would probably get ruined in the wet anyway. So with the ratings, I'm going to give it a 5. I just love the way they look. Everything about them is just a classic shoe. Like I said, it's got almost sort of a magical factor, same as a Jordan 4 Fire Red to me. So yeah, overall I'm going to give it a 5, especially in this day and age. They still look unique and different and cool. In terms of its comfort, I'm going to go with a 4. They are comfortable, but nothing spectacular. Very neutral, very sort of on the firmer side. But other than that, they're good to go, I think. They're not too bad to wear. In terms of quality, I think with that one I'll go with a 4 as well. I think, the quality on this, the leather's good, but not amazing. And not anything, to shout about. But at the same time, the overall finish of it's nice in my opinion. I do like the toe box shape as well. They've got the overlapping leather as well, which makes it look really nice. Much better than the metallic tongues, silver tongues. And in terms of cost, that's where it falls down. Even with that, I'm going to go with a 4. Like I said, there's a mysticism with the Jordan sneakers, especially these retros, the ones that Michael Jordan wore, and that's why people pay the premium really. But it's still a very cool sneaker in that sense, and that's why overall I'm going to give the score a 5. I just really think they're a perfect sneaker in that sense. I'd probably pick the Jordan 4 Fire Reds over these because I have more of an attachment to those, and I think arguably they probably look better. And also things like the Undefeated or the Brick Road Bic, they come quite close to these as well, but these are still an iconic shoe. And this year's been crazy with the releases. So yeah, overall I think it's definitely worth trying to grab. I think they've been sitting in certain sizes, but I feel like it's a really nice shoe and definitely worth having in your collection, especially if you're like a Jordan fan.